everybody, my name is Ariella Mason and I'm a Teen Services Librarian with Fresno County Library, and this is October's edition of Cooking Level 0. So this month we're going to be covering herbs and spices. It's going to be really important in the next few months, so we're going to cover that. So basically we're going to learn to spice it up. So basically we should probably start with what are herbs and spices. Herbs and spices are different plants and plant materials that we use with our cooking to change or enhance flavors in our food. The one you use the most, as far as you're probably thinking, is actually not an herb or a spice. Salt is a mineral and a seasoning, but it is not an herb or a spice. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. We love it, but it's not an herb or a spice. So basically, the difference between herbs and spices, because there is a difference. Herbs tend to be the actual like leafy green part of the plant, and then the spices tend to be more like the seeds, like pepper, or like the bark for cinnamon, or things like that. So basically what we do with these is we combine them in different combinations, like a chemistry experiment, and they react with each other and change the flavors, change the smells, sometimes even change like how it feels as you're eating it and how it looks. So it's part of the chemistry and the alchemy and the magic that is cooking. So it's a very important part, because boiled chicken is very boring, but if you do cook chicken with like some salt and pepper and garlic, it's really good. So very important. So how do we use herbs and spices? Herbs we tend to be stuff like parsley, basil, mint, cilantro, things like that. They can be used either dried or fresh. Fresh has a lot more power, a lot more taste, and a lot more smell, but it doesn't last as long. If you want to avoid these problems and still want to have fresh herbs, you can try growing them. I've tried a few times. Some of them work, some of them don't. It really just depends on how well you can grow stuff. Or you can buy them fresh and keep them in like a little jar of water, and that kind of helps them last a little bit longer. You can also buy some herbs at the store with the roots still attached, so that those will last a little longer as well. You can try growing them, but usually I would recommend just buying one from like a local home goods store or nursery that's actually well established, because then you have a lot harder time killing it. So otherwise, if you want to use dry herbs, there's a lot of different ways to use that. They don't have as much flavor or smell, but if you crush them down, so if you get like big whole leaves and you crush them down with either a mortar and pestle or a herb grinder, then you can kind of enhance that flavor and get it a little closer to the fresh plants. But you can also have a few more options. You can use it with oil to make an infused oil, which is really good. And those are great for kind of like having like dips for bread, or being able to take a shortcut while you're cooking. And those are good and fun to use. You can also toast them in a pan without any oil, and that kind of helps. I believe it's called flowering the herbs, where it's kind of like it makes them bloom, and it brings out some of the flavor and the smell, and it kind of helps, once again, kind of simulate how they were when they were fresh. You can also saute them with a little bit of oil, and that kind of is like a quick step to get kind of like the infused oil step. I always vote for getting as big as you can, like for my cumin and thyme and things like that. I always tend to get like whole, or as close to whole as I can get, dried herbs, and then use the mortar and pestle to crush it down. It's also some anger management release, so it's fun. There is some interesting things with herbs. For some people, it doesn't necessarily taste the same as to other people. For example, there's something called the cilantro gene, which I unfortunately have. Everybody in my family loves cilantro on their tacos and pretty much everything. My mother just dumps it on everything, basically. I have the cilantro gene, which means to me, it tastes like Dawn smells. So Dawn soap, it tastes like soap. It's not good. It's very gross. So you want to make sure you taste every herb or spice that you use in your cooking, so you're not cooking with something that's going to make the food completely gross to you. And you won't know until you experiment. So unfortunately with herbs and spices, it's just kind of try it out, see how it goes. You have the freedom to just go mad. So as far as spices, a lot of the things we end up using tends to be like pepper and allspice and clove and cinnamon and garlic and ginger and things like that. they have a lot stronger of flavor, and they also have a bigger array of flavors. So it's really cool to be able to use them. They also have a big array of like colors, so you can get anything from like a yellow to like a bright red. So it's really cool for also like coloring your food. You tend to be able to like, you can make it bright yellow with some turmeric, or you can make it bright red with some paprika. So it kind of makes it fun because you can kind of paint with your food. I'm a child, I'm sorry. And you're never too old to play with your food. Don't listen to anybody. As far as storing these, because you usually use them as they're dried, you want to keep them in a place that's like dark without much air moving through it, and it's not too hot. So basically keep them in your cupboard. It tends to be good to keep them in like an airtight container, either like a jar or a really good wooden box is where some of mine come in. But like a little jar or baggies and sandwich baggies and Ziplocs and stuff like that tend to be good for them. Usually they'll come in like either a baggie or like a little thing. Ginger and garlic are two spices that they're kind of weird. Most spices we use dried, but for ginger and garlic, I feel like we use them just as much fresh as we do dry, partly because they last a lot longer because they're both roots. So things like that will tend to last a little bit longer. Roots and tubers, like your potatoes, they last a while. And your garlic will last a while and things like that. So yeah. Cooking with these things, there's not really a right answer for each person. It's really going to be up to your personal preference or the preference of your family, which spices you like and which spices you don't. I do recommend that you keep it as simple as possible. For example, like my chicken example, you want to do just salt and pepper and garlic, it's still really good. It's really simple. It's really hard to mess up. Just don't pour too much of anything on your food. It's always easy to add a little bit more of your spices, but it's not easy to take anything out. Remember my cranberry sauce tale? Too much salt? You can't fix that. You can't unadd the salt. It's trying to add enough of everything else to balance out that salt is a futile endeavor. So just add as little as possible of any one thing so that you can make corrections and fix it, and just try to keep it as simple as possible. Because you want it to be recreatable. You want to be able to make this again if you like it. That's very important. So did you guys also know that that herbs, as well as being good in food, are also good for you? Before we had our modern pharmaceuticals with all of our medicine and pills that we get today, most people for millennia have just used plants and different parts of plants as part of their medicine. I'm not going to endorse everything that they did for medicine, like leeching and things like that. Don't try it. It's a bad idea. But a lot of plants do have medicinal value and do have things that they can help with, like with relieving blood pressure or helping with diabetes or helping prevent cancer and things like that. It's not as important right now, maybe, as you guys are probably younger, but as you get older, it'll help a lot. And it's also something to consider if you're cooking for your family. Just on that note, for medicinal, just don't start picking stuff out in the wild and eating it. People have died. It's bad. You have to know exactly what you're picking and eating. You don't want to eat something that you think is one thing and it's poison. So just don't start doing that. But I mean, most of the herbs and spices you're going to find in your grocery store should be pretty safe. So basically, in the long run, cooking with herbs and spices is really fun. It shouldn't really hurt you, except for making some really nasty combinations. So you can be free to be a mad scientist about it. You can try different combinations and look up different combinations online and try those out. You're not going to like everything. Everybody's taste is different, but you can have a bunch of fun with it and kind of make a bunch of different things and kind of think of it as like your own little chemistry experiments. Or when I was a kid, I was making potions because Harry Potter. So it's a lot of fun, and you're not going to have all the success, but you can also have a contest to see who can make the grossest thing. So, it works. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope to see you guys next time, and have a great day.